Hey everybody, it's me, Mitch. How you doing this afternoon? Good. Good to see all of you. We got almost 50 of you in here already right at the beginning. Good to see you. Get out your sunglasses, everybody. I'm in a bright red mood this afternoon. This shirt, to say the least, is certainly colorful. I love it. I love it. And you got to see the back of it when I had the rear view on. You got to see the back of it, the beautiful sunrise or whatever. But thought instead of wearing a t-shirt like I usually do on Saturday, I thought I would spice it up a little bit. Aunt B has a question already. Think I could piss people off for a change and talk about getting the Mueller frying pan back up and loving it? No, I don't think so. I think everybody who gets it loves it, Aunt B. At least that's the feedback I've gotten. I certainly like mine. Well, good to see you all. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Happy whatever it is. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. Thanks so much for the really nice comments on my little morning video this morning. And as usual, when I started, I had no idea where I was going with that. And believe it or not, that whole bit at the end, I hadn't planned on that. One thing, just like life itself, one thing just evolves into the next. I ended up talking about a problem that evidently we've all had a brush with at some time in our life, and that was reaching a point where you're just ready to toss it in. I've been there many times. I guess the difference between sanity and insanity is we all have those thoughts, or most of us do. Whether we act on them or not, it's another story. But one comment I got said, thank me for broaching a taboo subject. And it is kind of taboo to talk about. Nobody wants to admit that they've been to that dark a place in their life. But our life is not easy these days. Instead of just one thing to worry about, which is like being eaten by an animal, we have 100, 200 things to worry about coming at us from all different directions. Boyd Lamb wants me to, back from mowing the lawn, he says, could you please come over after the stream and finish mowing for me? I'd gladly pay you on next Tuesday. Well, listen, Wimpy, if I lived in a neighborhood, I'd be happy to come over and help you. Anyway, I enjoy those things in the morning. I usually do them I start them, believe it or not, about 7 o'clock. By the time I get done filming them, get them in, get them loaded into the computer, get them edited, get them rendered, get them uploaded to YouTube, fill out all the forms. It's usually two to 3 more hours. So if I get them up between 9 and 10, that's about as early as I can do it. So probably better, because after 10 o'clock, there's more likelihood of some of you actually being online. YouTube tells me that most of my viewers, the largest number, are actually online after 3 p.m. on any given afternoon, that is the best time for me to upload a video if I was only interested in initial views and how fast it started out. But with these morning things, I'm not interested in that. And surprisingly enough, I no rocket ship out of the gate, but it's acceptable and I'm happy with it. So I'm going to keep doing it. Like I said this morning, though, if you missed me one morning, don't panic. Don't worry. I'm okay. Every once in a while, something else may come up that I have to do in the morning, and I can't shoot that, edit it, upload it, do all that stuff. Spend 3 of my morning, and other things may crop up. Steve Studley asks everybody to please put 3 capital Q's before any question you have, with no spaces in between them, no question marks, just QQQ space. Type away. Type away. My disclaimer is, you all know it, I'm not a doctor, yada, yada. I don't give personal medical advice, yada, yada, yada. I tell you about me, what I did, what I do, how it worked for me, what my observations and experiences have been, and you take it from there. That way, nobody will ever come after me for practicing medicine without a license or violating, even worse, the YouTube community guidelines, which are more to be feared than the law itself, it seems. I assume everything's working. I don't see a lot of people telling me that my video is bad or my audio sounds bad, so I guess I'm finally getting this down pat. Turomir changed his name to Turomir Carnivore. I like that. Joined the private community and told us that I got myself a new member, Mitch. I broke my principles regarding YouTube, and I want to support your channel. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. That is the highest of praise coming from somebody who doesn't usually do this kind of thing. And he said, I promised myself I won't support childish censorship of YouTube. Well, we all made that promise, but it's the only game in town, and you either play in their arena or you don't play, it seems. I mean, there is Facebook and other social media, but they don't offer to somebody like me the reach that YouTube has. And Turomir says, I made an exception to my rule. Thank you so much. And Gary C. also joined the private community. Thank you, Gary. Good to see you, and I hope to see you. I hope to see you Thursday night in our, either in the chat or be brave, click the link and come in. For those of you that didn't know it, last Thursday night was ladies' night. Ladies' night in the private community. What a hoot. And one of our primary ladies, Scooby the dog, Ellen, Miss Ellen, had a previous engagement and couldn't make it, and that was really sad. But we had Satya Khalsa in there. Mama Cracker was in there under the alias of, damn it, Jim, I'm a carnivore, not a doctor. Just kind of my disclaimer. And we had Sherry Morgan and her 5 guinea pigs, which were the cutest damn things I've ever seen. Did I miss anybody? I think that was it. And I had a ball. We all had a ball. We had a great time, and 2 hours went by in an instant, talking about everything under the sun. And then, just like in a bar at ladies' night, no matter how hard you try, you can't keep the guys out. I'm sorry. I mean, the guys, you just can't keep them out. So all of a sudden, the guys started showing up. Peter, Papa Carnivore, showed up, and I let him in. I'm a very weak doorman. But this was only after about an hour and a half. And then Spanky, Golf Addict, also showed up in the green room, and we let him in. So we had like 5, 6 people having a nice little chat, and I had a great time. It was it was the best way that I could have thought of to spend an evening. And I encourage the ladies to just join us on a regular basis. We don't need to make a special night just for you. Steve Studley says, we want more ladies' nights, please. And you may notice in the chat on this public live stream, this is public. This is not for the private community, but anybody whose name is green in the chat is a member of the private community. So this is where we get my real community of people that are getting to be like family to me. So always appreciate you guys being here. And if you can't be in the private community for one reason or don't want to, like I said this morning, you are a member of my community either way. And I value you here. So no obligation, no pressure, only if you want to. Okay? It's not anything I'm trying to sell anybody. God forbid. Michael, I was just thinking about you this morning. United Carnivore. Have you had a chance to contact the Tampa Brazilian Steakhouse for the meetup? No, I haven't, Michael. I was thinking about that this morning, and I said to myself, Mitch, what would an executive do? What would Elon Musk do if he was tasked with arranging lunch meetups at Brazilian steakhouses? As busy as he is, he would delegate. He would delegate. And I decided only this morning to talk about this today. So it's serendipity, my friend, that you brought it up. Here's what I want to do. Michael, it's obviously going to be you. You start a little poll with people. Talk to the people that you know. If you want me to put a poll up in the community, let me know what day of the week is better for you to do a meetup in Tampa, and we'll get people to vote on it. I'll arm you with that information, and if you would be so kind, you contact for me and the rest of us the Brazilian Steakhouse in Tampa. Pick a day and a date. I'll make it over there anytime that seems to be convenient for most, and we will schedule and have this thing. And the same thing for here in Melbourne. But in Melbourne, I can run over there. But I'm going to be putting out some polls in the community tab where you can vote. There'll probably be 7 possible answers. Which day is best for you to come to a meetup in either Melbourne or Tampa, and which one, Melbourne or Tampa? I'll have another poll for that. And we'll see if we can find out how many people actually respond, and knowing that they are reading the community tab. And when we announce the date and time, they'll see it. And then we'll ask them to RSVP by email. So we'll have a pretty good count of who's committed to come and hope they show up. So I think that's a great way to do that. Let's do that. I said I wanted to have them before the end of September, and I mean it. I still mean that. I do want to do that. We had a ball. You, your father, and me, we had a ball. We ate meat, no doubt about it. So, got done thanking Turamir. We had drone shots. Jody was here early. How you doing? Don Shonger, good afternoon to you. Less junk, more health. Says hello. Barbara, how? Hello to you too. She says carnivore is the best way to go. I agree. Richard Williams from Copper Hill, Tennessee. Steve Studley is here, our newest member. Turamir Carnivore. I like the Carnivore after your name. And Steve Studley is here. Tina. Hi, Tina. Tina Schweikerath is here. Satya Khalsa. A real sweetheart. A genuinely nice person. We got to know each other last Thursday night. Good to see you. Good to see you here. Marilda Tuamola, how you doing? Or Tuomala. I'll get them right. Good to see you from Southern California. It's where Sherry Morgan lives. Valerie Thompson is here. How you doing, Valerie? Nick Sheeson is here. Good to see you, Nick. And Jerry Graham, good afternoon. I hope whenever everyone is enjoying their Saturday from Denver. Good to see you. David. Hello, David. Kane. Okay, he pronounces it Kane. Hello, David. Kane. We'll just be listening, making beef tallow on the stove. A worthwhile endeavor, to be sure. Pamela Suarez, how you doing, Pamela? Good to see you. Cooked up the salmon patties last night, but you used mackerel. Just as good. You can use tuna. You can use shoe leather. It'd probably come out good. Those things come out great. And Sherry. Hey, Sherry, how you doing? Mitch already has his baby making music on. Is that baby making music? I think this is baby making music right here, Sherry. What do you think? Been a long time since I made any babies, that's for sure. KJ Gooding, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. A lot of different people here. Dragon Girl is here. Says, hi, everyone. Moorhen from Europe. Hey, we got England here. Good to see you. I like it on Saturday when my friends from across the pond come in to visit because it's not the middle of the night for them. It's one of the reasons why I actually decided to do this thing on Saturday afternoon instead of evening, was to catch some of the people in the world that always seem to be in the wrong time zone for everything that happens here in the U.S. Australia is easy. They're just like 12 hours away, so anything at night here is during the day there. Very little happens while we were sleeping. Kevin Smith says, was watching Rabbi Carnivore, and he mentioned Mitch a couple of times. Yeah, Evan, we talked quite a bit. I was a guest on his podcast. We became friendly. We haven't been in touch lately, but I kind of took him early on in his channel. I tried to be a mentor and tried to give him some tips, whether they worked or they didn't work. But we've talked many times, and I'm glad he still has me in his thoughts and heart, and I, too, have him. But that somehow seems to be the way it goes in YouTube. People cross paths, like me and Curry Man, for example. We've been together twice, and each time we're together, we swear, oh man, this is great. We really get along great. We really had a good time. We need to do this once a month. And then it just, in the midst of all the noise and the work and everything else that's gone on, it just fades away. And it's been like that with a number of really great people that I've met. And I hope to renew some kind of a relationship or a collaboration with them down the road. But you do meet some great people, and Evan Moffick I love him. Just sweet guy. Aunt B, old guy Carnivore question. Oh, we got that one already. And yeah, we are just up to, in this chat that I'm looking at over here, we're just up to 3 o'clock when I started. So Jerry Graham, Tammy Pitarchis here. How you doing? Boyd Lamb is here. Let me try to run through these. Lou Ribideau, good afternoon, everybody. PhD Predator, hello all, he says, or she. No clue. Who else haven't I said hi to? Jerry Graham, looking dapper. Pamela Suarez says, that's a Caribbean shirt. I love it. Yes, it is. It's all I used to wear. And the louder, the better. I used to call these my Jimmy Buffett shirts. And I've always loved them. Problem is, I have a whole closet full of them that are so big that they're like tents on me now. But this is a new one, and it's a medium, and it fits pretty good. I mean, what do you think? It fits pretty good. I like the way it looks. hugs my new thin body. Anybody that I haven't said, any of the early birds yet? Got you. TL. Seen you before. Hi, Mitch. This is my first time posting on your live stream. See, I remember. I noticed that. I really appreciate your channel. You're looking good. Thank you, TL, my friend. And I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, so I'll just call you my friend. Tom in Tampa says, perfect fit, Mitch. I like it. TL is talking to everybody, and here's Ribeye Suze, or Susie. I know that's probably a girl. Says, hi, everyone. Good to see you. Jim Alvear. Good afternoon, Mitch. Nippy. Sydney. Wow, we got you at 5 a.m. in Sydney. Holy, that's about right. What are you, about 15 hours difference or something like that? Anyway, or no, less than that. But at any rate, good on you, mate. That was about the best you're going to get out of me in an Australian accent, other than maybe shrimps on the bobby. I've seen Michael Caine and Crocodile Dundee, my heroes. Who else? I think that's about it for the people that got here early and started chatting up a storm. Okay. Right before I came in to set up for this, and I usually set up the studio for this, get all this stuff set up, get all this software loaded, get the lighting set, make sure that everything's working like it's supposed to, turn on the mix, all that. I usually do that about an hour before I start, to make sure I don't have a problem that I might have to troubleshoot, because sometimes at the last minute something doesn't work, and like the times when my upload speed went to hell right before I went live. And it's Panic City, and there's nothing you can do about that. So I usually get it all set up. I get the music playing, get the lights plugged in, get everything ready to go. About an hour. It takes me about 10 or 15 minutes to basically open everything up, set it up, log in to all the right websites, and get it ready. And then I usually go back out and maybe fire up my part of whatever cigar I got left and watch YouTube. And I went outside. And I tuned into a video that was Robert Kennedy and Kaylee Means. And this is it. I'm just playing it in the background here. And you know who Kaylee Means is? His sister Casey. He and Casey are the ones that, I think, more than anything, even though I was surprised to find out this was the first time Robert Kennedy had ever actually sat down with Kaylee Means. I thought they'd been on the same page for a long time, because they've all been talking about the same things, and those same things are all the corruption in the food companies, all the corruption in the food industry. The pharmaceutical industry, how this country, all the stuff that we know, all the stuff I've been spouting for a year, frustrated as hell that nobody takes this stuff seriously. And that's why I was so excited when, and I'm going to leave this play in the background until Kaylee Means, his face showed. There he is. That's Kaylee Means. He's a young guy. His sister is a physician who quit practicing medicine 11 years ago, kind of for the same reasons Ken Berry did. He decided that it was too much corruption. They were killing people. They were hurting people. This is not why they signed on. This isn't what they signed up for. What I'm going to do right now, because I'm not going to make a separate video about this, but check the chat. right now, and there's a link in it. And if you want me to post that link again, let me know. Just ask me, and I'll try to keep track on what you guys are saying over there. It's hard for me to talk, push buttons, and read every line and word in the chat, but I'll give it a shot. But that's a link to this video. It's fabulous. Not that I heard not a single thing that I didn't already know and been talking about for a year, not just me, but everybody else in our space. Not since Nina Teicholz. Gary Taubes came on the scene years ago exposing the corruption. But for the first time, because of politics, because of Donald Trump, love him or hate him, and because Robert Kennedy got so disillusioned with it all that he left the Democrats and decided to support, and the two of them got together, and one conversation led to another, and they came up with MAHA. MAHA. Make America Healthy Again. Is this going to fix the problem? Not right away. Will it make a dent in the problem? Well, it can't help but make a dent in it, just from the sheer fact that people who never even gave this kind of thing a second thought before are going to find out it's a thing. It's a thing. It's the reason mom got diabetes and died at 56 years old and didn't have to. It's the reason why little Johnny at age 8 weighs 180 pounds and is a diabetic. He didn't have to be. It's what's responsible for virtually 99% of the pain and suffering of the human race, especially Americans. Kennedy's known this all along. They've just done what they always do, and they have just played him off as some kind of a kook, some denier, conspiracy theorist. You know how they do it. You know the playbook. The playbook, you racist, sexist, conspiracy theorist, denier, you. Everybody knows that meat causes cancer. We all know that. That's common. That is settled science. How dare you deny it? In fact, we are working right now to make laws to make it criminal because of the damage you'll do to the human race by spouting such misinformation as that red meat is good for you. You can't do that. We'll throw you in jail if you do. That's how political prisoners are born. That's the playbook. They execute the playbook flawlessly. It's sad. But now all of a sudden, with RFK's thrust on the national stage and the possibility that he's going to have some pretty important position if Trump gets elected in that administration and knows where all the corruption is, somebody will finally be in a position that can't be bought off, no matter how much money. I think the Kennedys got plenty of money already. So does Donald Trump. That's the one thing people forget about Trump. You can't buy the guy. He doesn't need your money. Not that I'm telling you how to vote or anything. Don't get me wrong, and don't start heading for the doors and where's that unsubscribe button? You know, I lost 5 or 10 subscribers just from that morning video this morning. Who are these people? Who are these people? I come on, talk common sense. They can't stand to hear it, or they don't like my cigar. So mission accomplished. I got rid of them. And maybe some decent people will come along, and they usually do before the end of the day and take their place. But it is a fascinating study in humanity just to watch it happen. Watch the numbers go up and down. At any rate, that video with Kaylee Means, and Kaylee Means is in an interesting place. He used to work for the food company. He used to work for Coca-Cola. He was one of the people on the team feeding the money to the corrupt people in power, inventing the mechanisms through which they could get the message out and control everybody. He knows how it works. He quit because he couldn't stand it anymore. It's fabulous to watch these two guys talk about corruption and poisonous food and say exactly the same words and sentences that Ken Berry said 6 years ago, that I've been saying full-time for a year. They talk about addiction. How about that? In addiction, Kelly, they talked about the fact that the real problem is addiction. It's the worst addiction. They actually said that. I'm sitting there going, where have I heard that before? So here's my thoughts. It's encouraging. But here's the major hurdle and why it won't fix itself, in my opinion. Once you're addicted to something, you don't want to give it up. When you don't want to give it up, nobody's going to be able to talk you out of it. You have to find another reason. So no matter what they say, or no matter how much of this corruption they clean out, there's still going to be most people that just simply will do whatever they have to do to get that processed food, that sweet shit, and feed their addictions. Because just like alcoholics did during the Prohibition, just like alcoholics had to have a drink, they did anything, paid any amount of money for it, just like cigarette smokers and drug users do. You can outlaw something, that doesn't stop people from doing it if they're addicted. But influencing lawmakers at least might stop the corruption and stop the flow of money that allows the food and drug companies to simply just buy everybody, buy the politicians, buy the medical schools, buy the hospitals, buy the news media. That's what we have today, and poison the people to keep it all going. And one thing Kaylee Means said in this interview, he looked at RFK and he said, tell me if this doesn't sound familiar. Did you know that the tobacco companies, that the food industry has hired thousands of tobacco company scientists whose job it is to make the food more and more and more addictive? Did you know that? Well, I certainly knew that. That's obvious. I've got proof that I knew it. I was talking about it a year ago, and I've known about it a lot longer than that. So it really validates for me not only what I've been preaching for a year, but it more than validates the fact that you, me, and everybody else in our community is doing the right thing, regardless of what they try to scare us with. It's all crap. We are doing the right thing. We are eating the appropriate food. We are doing the best we could possibly do in a cesspool of a world of food for ourselves. And I hope that at least that will cement everybody's conviction and dedication to this, with less doubt in your mind that maybe the other guy is right. He's not. He's not. And more support and validation from people higher up and higher up, I think, will be coming out. The average guy on the street will never, ever understand what a carnivore diet is, that's for sure. But I think maybe we're a little better off than we were a month or two ago. Maybe someday we'll fix this department. Anyway, that's something I wanted to talk about today as a monologue and got off in a different direction. Sherry Morgan, thank you, Sherry. Mitch, did you ever have the keto flu? No. And the reason I don't think I had the keto flu is because I was keto for years before I went carnivore, on and off, but I never really had to go from a flaming sugar burner, cold turkey, to no sugar. So I never had the keto flu. What are your tips on keeping electrolytes balanced and avoid sweet cravings? Thank you. Well, that's a big answer, Sherry. I've talked about that many times, especially in my How to Start Carnivore for the First 30 Days. And you all know that I yell, eat, 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 till you can't eat anymore. I don't care if you have to eat 10,000 calories a day. I don't care if you gain 20 pounds the first month. Just don't let yourself get hungry. That, to me, seems like the only way you're going to curb cravings initially, when they're the strongest and screaming at you because your subconscious mind thinks that you are going to die by tomorrow because the 1 day of sugar that you can store up in your body is rapidly going away. And your brain doesn't know you've got 6 months or a year's worth of energy stored in fat. It can't get to that. Doesn't even know it's there. It knows that your insulin is high, and each of your fat cells knows when the insulin is high, shut the door, don't let the fat out. But your brain's not involved in that process. Your brain is not in control, really, of that. That's a hormonal thing, and insulin is secreted because your blood sugar's high, not because of anything to do with the fat cells. But the insulin tells the fat cells, we got a lot of blood sugar, it's high, we need to get it out of the bloodstream before it hurts us. Cram it in the cells and use it for energy. That's the Randall cycle in action. You all heard the Randall cycle, whether you understand it or not, I don't know, but that's where it comes into play. It decides which energy source, fat or sugar, is best at any particular instant for that cell to be using as a primary source of energy. Excuse me a second. So cravings are your brain panicking that it needs some sugar and it's going to need a lot of sugar pretty soon. That's what causes the cravings. So you have to kind of put yourself in a position where starving is the furthest thing from anything in your body is going to react to or think of. And the way to do that is just keep eating. Just keep eating meat, eating fat. You'll still get a touch of cravings instantly, but you'll also be so full and disgusted from eating so much that you'll be able to fight them. And it won't take long after a while. But this only works on carnivore. This does not work if you're eating not 1 gram of carbs. This is the abstinence from the drug that you're addicted to part of what I tell everybody. It's why I don't recommend keto to a flaming carb addict. Keto is great if you're not really a carb addict. That's about 10-15%, maybe 20 on a good day of the American public. The other 80-90% of us are carb addicts. Sorry, it is the problem. We need to start talking as a society more about it. I was happy to hear Kennedy and Kelly Means actually bring it up as the huge problem that it is in that video. Should watch that. It's very interesting. So as far as getting rid of cravings, that's right there is the crux of the whole problem. You can't until you stop eating sugar completely, stuff your face with fat and meat until you start to wake up those fat burning pathways. Keep that up for about a month. Stop worrying about how much weight you lose or gain. This is not a weight loss diet initially. Something very hard for people to actually accept, because why would anybody go on a diet? What other reason could there possibly be? Everybody knows people go on diets to lose weight, don't they? That's so firmly implanted in our head. We're so worried about how fat we look. That becomes our prime motivation. That's not important. I keep saying that. Forget the weight. Throw the scale away. It doesn't matter. You can't control your weight. Not without screwing something else up. If you eat too little, you screw up your metabolism. If you exercise too much, you also screw up your metabolism. As long as you're burning sugar, you're screwed. And even if you do manage to tough it out through months of torturous cravings, you can't sustain that. You will always gain it all back and a few extra percent just as icing on the cake. Because your subconscious mind says, holy shit. I mean, we've had some rough famines before because your mind views this diet you're on as a famine. It doesn't understand. It's not living in your conscious mind thinking about what you're doing. It just knows how to interpret the signals it gets. And it gets a signal that there's been a shortage of food and acts accordingly. Doesn't know you're on a diet. It knows there's a famine. There's a food shortage. And that food shortage lasted for months. And then the food magically reappeared again. In its infinite programming and wisdom, it decided the next famine might be worse. We better put on a few extra pounds, put away a little more extra energy this time. And that is exactly why when you yo-yo, you generally always gain a few percent more than you lost. Your body's just trying to be better prepared for the next famine, because that's how our ancestors lived on a regular basis. The hunt didn't always go well every day. In fact, more often than not, it didn't go well. We adapted and we learned the techniques to better survive through this oddball schedule of hunts succeeding and failing. That was a survival benefit, ended up in the programming of every one of the descendants of those people. And as long as it stayed a survival mechanism that benefited survival, it kept being passed forward until it got to us. Let me give you, I don't know if you want to hear any more about on this tangent, but let me give you a real easy to understand example of what survival of the fittest means. Now that may sound like a dumbass thing to say to a group of intelligent people. Let me tell you what survival of the fittest means and how that affects evolutionary development. To most of us, when the word fit is used, what do you picture? You picture some athletic guy, like you see at the gym, Adonis-looking guy in perfect health, the kind of guy that when he smiles, that little sparkle of light comes off of one of his teeth. You know who I'm talking about. Or that really good-looking woman wearing those tights in the gym, that perfect hair, everything is just perfect, healthy as hell. You look at that person and you say that, now that is the epitome of fitness. And you might be right, but you could be wrong too. You could be dead wrong. And let me tell you why. Let's suppose, hypothetically, that you had two groups of people. In one group, they all looked like that prime example from the gym that we were just talking about. The other group of people Not one of them weighed less than 300 pounds. Okay? They could hardly get up and walk, these people. 300 to 400 pounders. Let's suppose we had 10 people in each group. And I ask you the question, which group is the most fit? And you would, of course, say the gym people. And I would say, okay, let's alter the environment a little bit now. An economic collapse happened. A cyber attack happened and the power grid went down. It isn't expected to come back up or be fixed for 5 years. The humans have already looted and robbed everything that can be eaten from any store shelves out there. There is no food to be had anywhere on this planet. People are killing their neighbors and stealing the food that their neighbors have in their house. People are taking to their bunkers. They're mobbing the farms, killing the cows and dragging them off. And the food that is available is being stolen and disappearing. There is no food anywhere. This is going to go on for 5 years. If I come back in 5 years, of the two groups of people that we started with, the thin, pretty gym people, or the 300 to 400 pounders that never expended much energy because they sat around all day. Of those two groups, which ones are most likely to still be living? It's the fat people. And the reason is when the world ran out of fuel, they had tankfuls of it to survive on. Now, that may be a stretch to say that they survived 5 years, but they had the survival advantage because they were fat. Okay? Think about that. Now, the story I told sounds really, really, really extreme, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound extreme? Yes, it sounds like it could never happen. It has happened countless times in our history where some major geologic event, some major weather pattern came along, killed off the food supply for a while, put the animals and the human population into the position where there was no food. The ones that had the best ability to store fat and find the most sugar were the ones that survived. And the ones that survived passed those genetic instructions on to all humans that came after them, including us. The reason we get fat so easy, the reason that we get addicted to sugar so easy, is we are the descendants of the fat people who survived the famines. Period. That is not conjecture. That is fact. It cannot be any other way. We don't want that. We don't want to be the descendants of the fat people. The fat people didn't, back then, they didn't have the 7-Elevens. But they certainly learned to make the best of what they did have, and because of that, they survived. We are not descendants of any branch of the family tree that went extinct. We are only descendants of the survivor of every generation, hundreds of thousands, millions of generations, depending on how far you go back down the trunk of the tree of life. And every trait that we have today, every behavior pattern that we have, every physiological chemical pathway that we have is the result of what worked best and aided survival. That's what survival of the fittest means. So whether you're fit or not depending on whose definition of fit you use, the only one definition of fit that means anything is, are you fit to live in the environment in which you currently find yourself? If all of a sudden the weather went to freezing, the more fat you had on your body would make you fitter than the bony, skinny people, because it would insulate you a little bit better from the heat. There are all kinds of environmental things that change. Most of the time, what they end up doing is they drive migrations, and it's all of those changes in things over time that drove the human ancestry to migrate out of Africa and across into Siberia and across the land bridge in Alaska, down the west coast of the United States into South America, where they became the Incas and those. Or head the other way out of Africa, go to the west, up into Europe. They were driven by climate changes. They were driven by geological changes. The fact that what used to be lush tropical forests were now savannas and deserts. Over hundreds of thousands of years, these changes happened. So a perfectly fit group of people in one particular environment could conceivably become incredibly unfit when that environment drastically changed. You don't believe me? Ask any dinosaur that you happen to find. Anyway, I hope you found that a little bit interesting. I've been thinking about this kind of stuff all my life. When you think that way, you gain kind of a dynamic understanding of how it ever got to be the way that it is right now. I saw Sherry Morgan asked me another question in a super chat, and I always like to acknowledge those. So let me see if I can scroll down in the chat. There it is. Sherry, thanks again. Did you find better mental clarity and health with keto? Do you find carnivore is better for mental? If so, how long did it take for you to notice? Thank you. I think keto, and I mean, it's not the kind of thing that you actually sit there every day and rate. Well, on a scale of 1 to 100, what do I think my mental clarity is today? Am I a 96, 97? Or am I only an 85? None of us look at our mental clarity like that. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of things involved in mental clarity, including emotions. You know, can you be as mentally clear when you're, for example, angry? Maybe. Sad. The answer to that question is yes, yes, and yes. As soon as you get rid of the sugar and any of the oxidizing agents like you find in seed oils, and stop artificially lowering your cholesterol, the minute you do those things, you can't help but increase the health of your brain. You're not glycating things. You're not glycating things anymore because of excess sugar. You're not oxidizing, creating free radicals, or AGE, AGEs they call them, advanced glycation end products. You're not depriving your body of cholesterol it needs to rebuild itself, especially the cellular walls, and more especially in the brain, which is made of cholesterol and fat. And the cholesterol and fat act as insulating materials to keep the brain from short-circuiting. Helps it build its myelin sheath, which shields the connections between neurons. And if those things are not working, your brain's not working. And you do most of that on keto, too. In that respect, keto's not much different from carnivore. I doubt that 20 grams of carbs a day, as long as they're not high in oxalates and other bad poisonous plant stuff, is going to screw it up enough where you might say to yourself, or I ever said to myself, wow, I felt much better on carnivore than I do now on keto. The only way you could ever find out, I would imagine, would be carnivore for about 6 months. Really pay attention to how your mind's working, and then start adding things in and become keto and see if you feel just as good, if you're just as happy, you don't find yourself getting depressed any more often. But that would be a tough thing to try to gauge on any kind of a scale where you could assign a number to it. So I hope that answers your question, Sherry, and thank you very much. I think, listen, if you can do keto, if you can be on keto, and it doesn't cause cravings that torture you, and if you have been on keto for 10, 15, 20 years, and it works great, you're healthy and you're thin and everything's fine, your health is good, then you're lucky. You might be a carb addict, but you're not enough of a carb addict where it's going to sabotage you and throw you back into the standard American crap diet. That's not what I have against keto. I have nothing against keto. I just think that most of us are raging carbohydrate addicts, and we have to abstain completely from carbs, like an alcoholic has to, and a drug addict have to, and a gambling addict or any other addict has to abstain. I mean, that's all. And I had a comment today from somebody who said they don't know why I'm afraid after 2 years that I might fall off the wagon if I ate sugar. Not only am I afraid, I'm pretty confident that would happen. I'm wired that way. Right now, that wiring has been put back in the closet. It's not bothering anybody. But you crack that little closet door open, let it peek its ugly head out. It's not long. Same thing, and I mean, if they don't believe it about sugar, ask any alcoholic who's been sober for 10 years if he would risk taking a single drink. They'll say no. Because they know what will happen, because it happened to them so many times in the past. Off the wagon, back to square one, turn in your 10-year token, here's your 7-day pin. And since I don't crave this stuff, I don't miss this stuff, why in the hell would I go out of my way to eat that stuff? No, I avoid things that taste sweet and I don't miss them. I have become a lover of things that are savory. Speaking of savory, well, let me do this. I've been at this for about an hour so far. Did I welcome Jim Avir to the channel? I see that we have another new channel member, Jim Alvir, Alvir. Welcome. I doubt I could find your thing here on this chat. It's about 100 miles long now, but I noticed it on this other screen of mine. Welcome, thank you. Hope to see you Thursday night, Jim. I don't know why this shirt is making me thirsty. Oh my God, I'm getting texts. Hang on a second. Something from my kids. Deal with that later. Let me quickly go back in the chat and find some questions. Pedro RC. Hey, Pedro, how you doing? Hi, Mitch and everybody. Do you think it's possible to feed our children in a carnivore way? I mean, strictly carnivore since birth. Well, medically, Physiologically, yes, of course. Of course. As long as the kids are being breastfed for the first number of years, they get everything they need from that. They certainly get whatever sugar they need. They get the cholesterol. They get everything they need from that. They would be the healthiest kids on the planet. And the closest I know to somebody these days doing that is Ken Berry and his baby Bonnie Blue. Just watch them. Look at these videos. First solid food this kid ever ate was a rib. And they'll gnaw at that bone. I mean, they'll dive into that. You put strained broccoli in their face, they'll spit at you and kick it away. They know that that's crap and poison. They don't want it. But you give them meat, they go after it. That's what they're supposed to eat. You don't have to tell an animal what it's supposed to eat and what it's not. It knows. And so does your infant. The real problem is the societal pressures, the brainwashing, the fact that we equate sugar with a reward or a treat. Good job, Johnny. Good job, Johnny. Here's an ice cream cone. And it doesn't take kids very long to become sugar addicts. And once they're addicts, that's a tremendous reward for them. So they know that if they want that reward, they need to behave. Just like your doggy knows it needs to perform the trick you want it to get the treat. That's how most animals work. Pain and pleasure are the impetus, at least until humans get to be about 25 years old, when their brains finally get ripe, all the pathways finally get completed, and they can actually think in a critical and logical manner. But that happens at 25 years old. Don't expect an 18-year-old kid, no matter how book smart he might be, no matter how great a schemer he might be, no matter how clever he might be, don't think him capable of critical and logical, rational thinking, especially thinking about consequences, playing chess 30 moves out. Now, yeah, there's some young people that can, but the average person, and this is medically known, that the brain fully develops at 25 years old. Makes you wonder why we give 16-year-olds driver's licenses and why they're always the ones doing the most reckless stuff. And we drug them to death when they're 12 to start with, and we screw them up even more. So I was answering that question here about feeding the kids. So yeah, the kid will be just great on the meat. Whether you can live on this planet today and have your kid integrate into society, have friends, go play at their houses, that's another story. Because the minute this kid of yours who eats meat and doing just fine on it hits the outside world, he's going to be buried under an avalanche of sugar. So it's a double-edged sword. The more you can keep him away from the sugar and seed oils and processed foods, the healthier the kid's going to be and less likely to be an addict. But you're also going to have to shield the kid, isolate the kid, find like-minded parents, which is why it'd be great to have a carnivore, like a carnivore village, where carnivore people could go buy a house and all live together. And in the center of this carnivore village would be a big farm with pasture-raised chickens and cows and sustainable farming, and everybody would buy their food. I mean, what does that sound like? Kind of sounds like the way it used to be, doesn't it? Sounds like the old village concept, where everybody lives pretty much the same way And each person in the village plays a role in providing what all the villagers need, whether it be new shoes, building houses, raising food. Look at the Amish, for example. They're still living this way these days, and they do pretty well. They still raise animals. I would imagine, I don't know a whole lot about them, but I would imagine they're probably traditional eaters and eating a balanced or meat-heavy diet with some veggies, but I don't think they're running to the 7-Eleven getting Twinkies. They might be. At least the young people might be. If there's a 7-Eleven down the street, they could ride their little carriage too. But I hope that answers your question, Pedro. It would not be a physical thing or a health thing that they couldn't be a carnivore. They could be a carnivore from birth, and they'd be much better off. I think it would be a societal thing, trying to be accepted or fit in. Because you know how everybody that we talk to about this thinks we're wackos. Let's see what else I got here. I got, is that the only QQ? I know there have been more questions than that, but that's the only one that seems to come up. Wow. You guys, you're not asking me too many questions, so I will just look over the chat and start commenting on things. Hang on. Bear with me a second here. We have Asjorn Knutson. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. I'm so happy that you made it in today. So happy that you made it in today. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. Do I serve 100% meat cake for my kid's birthday? if they won't lynch you or kill you or throw a big tantrum, it might be fun to try. Make a big meatloaf, stick a candle in it. But it is a problem. We have invented a new normal for humans to live under, and it is a sugar society, and every level of everything we do revolves around the food, and the food revolves around the sugar. And we've basically, in 100 years, drastically changed the way this animal has survived for hundreds of millions of years in all our previous forms. And all of a sudden, in our infinite wisdom and quest for making money, we have totally changed the appropriate food supply for this species, and after such a short period of time, I'm talking 50, 60 years, which is nothing in evolutionary or geological time. It's a snap of a finger. We are halfway down the path to being extinct. Fertility rates are down 50%. I didn't make that up. I heard Kelly Means talk about that today on his interview. Fertility rates are down 50% between the low testosterone from the lack of cholesterol precursors, the PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome in women. We're not reproducing. That's called the path to extinction. That's what's happened to millions upon millions and upon millions of different little branches of our ancestral tree that weren't the ones that survived, that eventually just died out. It's a scary thought. I think in terms of generations, because that's a chunk of time that's more than a year, but still, 20 years maybe per generation. 20, yeah, I'd say about 20 years would probably be an average generational switch. And I think when I think about this, that we're, 4 to 5 generations away from living in bunkers as survivalists, those of us that are still around, that haven't been killed off in World War III, starved to death, been a victim of some disaster of technology because how clever we thought we are inventing artificial intelligence and wiring it up to killer robots. Some of these dystopia movies may not have been real far off. Ashjorn, again, thank you. I'll roast a whole lamb and stick in some candles. Yes, you might start a trend. You may save humanity. If you start a trend that it catches on, and the next thing that everybody at every birthday party starts serving meat with candles sticking out of it. You may have been the catalyst to save the human race. It's possible. Anything's possible with all the crazy shit that goes on these days. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Let me go down in the chat and see what you're all talking about. A question. Hi, Mitch. How are you, sir? Good to see you today from Spanky. Spanky, that is not a question, but I'll take it. Louise Kelly says, question, what was your job in the past? Oh, Kelly, there's not enough time in the day, not today anyway, to get into that one. I've answered that a number of times, and I think I could see the deer in the headlights look as I kept going from career to career to career to business to business to business, of all of the myriad of things that I've done in my 77 years. I've had 3 successful businesses that failed because of drastic changes in the economy or some other factor. So I'll summarize the main ones for you. My first real business, I was a contractor who built swimming pools. When Jimmy Carter was president, interest rates went to 18%, and nobody could borrow the money or afford to pay the payments to build a swimming pool, and that business went to hell. So with my computer background from the military, I went into the technology business. I started writing computer software for the Radio Shack computers way back when they first came out, and there was no software for people to run on them. They had a spreadsheet and a word processor. And along came Mitch writing accounting systems and things that businesses could use. I wrote what I called a church management system. It was a complete suite of software that a church could administer all of its finances, its membership duties, everything. And we had churches all over Orlando were running our software on Radio Shack Model 2 computers. This shows you how long ago that was. Then went into the computer hardware business. Was in that for over 20 years. Grew a huge company that we served half of Florida, the northern half of Florida, with computer hardware and infrastructure for school districts. And when the internet started to grow, we were the guys that wired up the schools. Had a big company, made a lot of money. It wasn't a public company, it was my company. I owned 100% of it. And then politics took over. Crooked people began to see there was a lot of money being made there, and they couldn't let that happen. Some realtors got together who had friends that had ties to computer companies, and they started to make political noise, accused me of doing dastardly things when I wasn't, and everybody loved doing business with me, but this is how politics is. There are few people on the planet that understand how Donald Trump feels about being accused of things he hasn't done and persecuted publicly for things that are bullshit. Sorry if I offend anybody politically there. That happens to be fact as far as I'm concerned, because it happened to me. I saw my name in the newspaper one day being accused of illegal bidding practices, which wasn't true. And who was the author of this particular op-ed? None other than some real estate clown with a friend in the computer business that happened to be running for school board chairman at the time, so that he could be in charge of the people that make the decision of who their school district will buy the $10 million worth of stuff that they buy next year. That's Mitch's introduction to politics. That's why I hate it so much. It's nothing but schemes and dirty, underhanded tricks that people deserve to be shot in the head for. And they do it every day, and it's more and more and more and more. That's why I'm so disgusted with politics and political tax. I've been a victim of this, and I fought it all my life. And in my business, this clown finally got elected to the school board. He finally had the influence enough to get that particular county to change their buying rules so that they could only buy from a huge national company, not from a privately owned company like me. And basically, that was only one of the many counties I sold to, but the next thing I know, my business is cut in half. So I pulled a back door on him, and I said, okay, I'll play your game. And I became a partner of Compact Computer, an educational partner. That means I had to do business completely differently as far as the hardware was concerned. But the software, the networking, the network infrastructure, imaging, the hard drives, the operating systems, the network, all that stuff was pretty much the same. It didn't matter whose box I used. So I became one of the largest sellers of compact computers in the north half of Florida to education. And instead of me having to build them in my own shops, which I was doing, building the computers we sold, thousands of them, I just had to buy them from Compaq, and they paid me a nice commission. So actually, it turned out to be a better deal for me. And it was a great deal for me, and it went on great for a year or two until Carly Fiorina and Hewlett-Packard Corporation came along, and what did they do? They bought Compaq Computer. Hook, line, and sinker. And Carly Fiorina is the single most crooked woman on the planet Earth. Of course she was crooked. You have to be that crooked to want to be a politician. Anyway, it took them 6 months to screw me out of my entire business. They took everything away from me. They stole every customer away. They backdoored me. They circumvented me. They told my customers that they can't buy their compacts from me anymore. They have to buy them from them. And they just threw me aside. I had a contract with them. I handed my whole customer base over to them, and they just tossed me aside. And they told me, Mitch, you can tell this upsets me to talk about. This is more than 20 some years ago. Mitch, it's not personal. It's just business. I explode when I hear somebody tell me that. It's not personal. It's just business. You just tore my life apart, ruined me financially, took away a business that I built for 20, 25 years, and you're telling me that I'm not supposed to take it personally? So now I found myself with no business, tremendous loss of money and income, with a wife who's used to living in a mansion with all kinds of things to support, boats, yachts, airplanes. I mean, I was making a lot of money. And I had to sell everything I owned, and it was crazy, and I got very depressed. And when you hear me talking about being depressed, and you'll know I've been through times where it's tough to have it and then not. But I decided that, okay, I'm done with the technology business. A friend of mine had a restaurant down in Naples that was great. I decided, okay, we're going to take this restaurant concept of yours. We're going to build 10 of these things in Orlando. We're going to make a ton of money in 5 years, and we're going to sell them all off for a fortune and retire. And we opened a place. It's a long story about the restaurant, but It was a fish and chips. Grouper and Chips was the name of the restaurant. We had gourmet food. We had something as simple as a grouper sandwich. We had the best food I ever had. You don't even want to know how much weight I gained owning that restaurant. It's terrible. And this was in 2005, 6, and 7 when the economy was starting to go to hell. Real estate was starting to go to hell for the 2008 crash. I got the restaurant built. I got it opened just in time for the entire economy to collapse. The place where I built the restaurant, a big, brand new, beautiful community in Orlando called Baldwin Park, built by the same people that built all the beautiful developments, retail developments around Disney. It failed because it just failed. They sold it all off to some California real estate trust that didn't give a shit about those of us that had spent a fortune building a business in there. And I managed to keep that open for 2 years until I lost that too. And that was the time when I basically said, I'm done. But I pulled myself up, and with the help of my children, and that was 15 years ago, I managed to come back to this. I'm a happy guy now. That's why I said this morning in my little rant, I said, I'd contemplated killing myself. You can only take so much in this one lifetime. You say, why bother? It's going to end anyway someday. And I remembered that old saying that I had heard years and years ago that said, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And that kind of snaps you back into reality. And here I am today. So that's the short version of what did I do for a living. What all this adventure over a lifetime has done for me, and writing a book 22 years ago about all of my adventures trying to discover the meaning of life and where life came from and how it could possibly have happened this way without magic and mysticism, but real science and evolution, is where I learned everything that I learned about human physiology and evolutionary biology, cellular, and the things that make me feel qualified to think that I understand how the machinery works and how the programming controlling that machinery also works. And you may think that because I didn't go to medical school, I couldn't possibly be qualified to think along those terms. And I will tell you that not a single soul that graduates from medical school is ever taught any of the kind of stuff that I've discovered on my own. You want me to write a prescription? I have no idea. I'm lost. I wouldn't know what drug to give you. But that's what they teach the doctors today. The doctors are just plugged into the matrix, taking directions from artificial intelligence programs on computers, to which they feed a bunch of symptoms, and out pops a recommended treatment, and they just pass it on. They're like the people flipping hamburgers into Wendy's. In 3 years, there won't be people flipping hamburgers in Wendy's anymore. There'll be a robot with the word Tesla stamped on it. And those same robots will take over half the jobs in this country in 5 or 10 years. A certainty. A certainty. The cost of products will probably go down because these robots aren't going to cost an employer anywhere near what a human being costs. They don't need health insurance. They don't get sick. They work 24/7. I saw a very interesting talk about the fact that eventually, after maybe 10 years, the actual cost to buy and own one of these robots to work in your factory is going to be less than maybe $1 an hour. No human can compete with that. So we've got that crisis coming too. We've got a lot of different things coming at us like freight trains from a lot of different directions. We have the incredible fraud and propaganda that artificial intelligence can create to fool most human beings. We have that. We have robotics coming to replace humans. I mean, you watch some of the demonstrations of some of these robots as they crack an egg, put it in a frying pan, grab a spatula, flip an over easy egg over, and put it on a plate. We're just beginning. We're just beginning. They predict that in 5 or 10 years there will be easily 1 billion robots. Humanoid. I'm talking about humanoid robots, not these big arm things that you see in the auto manufacturing. I'm talking about humanoid-looking robots doing the jobs that human beings do. So that's going to be a real challenge for our society. How are these people all going to make a living when something that says Tesla on it has taken their job, or Boston Dynamics? And the real scariest part of this is what's going to happen when these same psychopath, sociopathic, cruel people who are responsible for the killing and maiming and suffering of most of the human race because they work for the food or the drug companies with no conscience, what happens when they decide that they can take all of this tremendous artificial intelligence and plug it into some killer robot? And you have the Terminator scenario. And that's when I first saw that movie, it dawned on me that this is possible. And as I see this AI stuff, as I see it keep getting developed at a pace that'll make your head spin. Neural networking. That's crazy. It's crazy. It's scary. So we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us. Not the least of which is straightening out the food supply, or all the rest of this stuff's just going to be academic. In a few generations, there won't be any of us left to even care. The good news for me, I'm old. I've lived in spite of all the downs and the trouble and the problems, I've had a great life. Don't anybody ever feel sorry for me. Please. I've had a great life. I've owned countless airplanes. I've been everywhere. I've flown to islands, scuba dove on beaches with 2 people on the entire island. I had a 53-foot Hatteras yacht. I sailed the Bahamas and anchored in crystal clear water. I traveled to Europe. I have had a life that most people only dream of. Yes, I lost it all, but that didn't mean I didn't have it, and I didn't experience it, and I don't remember it, and most importantly, that I didn't learn from it. So I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me. I'd rather you all be proud of me, that somehow I managed, like the phoenix, to rise from the ashes, get a sense of humor back, and try to find some purpose here to do 2 things: to help you and help support me now that I have to count on Social Security and not much else. And it's working out great. And I'm eating some great food. And speaking of great food, what's this say? Papa Carnivore, Peter's here. Hey, Peter, how you doing? I went from 300 pounds and morbidly obese to now 202. You look great these days, Peter. We see Peter on Thursday night. I was 20. Wait, okay. And Peter said, my new girlfriend is happy. See, now that is where you're going to get in trouble, Peter. I'm sorry. She thinks I'm super sexy. That's, Peter, TMI. Too much information. All right. Spanky asked a question. Okay, Spanky, I always suspect of your questions. That's Golf Addict. This is for everyone. What was your job or career? No, we're not going to go there. It's bad enough that I went through my career and some jobs. Let me go down to the bottom of the chat and see what's happened. Mitch is living the dream, Sherry says. Sherry, you know what? At my age, in my health, with my past, This is a dream for me. It really is, because I don't have the pressures that I had that kind of ruined any really good thing, because there was always a price to pay for it. I am happy, but most people that I've noticed, when you get older, your world just gets smaller. It's just a natural thing. Your world gets smaller. Too many people my age, their world has gotten down to just like their bedroom because they're sick, or they're not alive anymore, because I have outlived the average age now. But there are people, and you've heard about them, we call them dropouts. And I don't mean drop out of high school. I'm talking about big, successful businessmen that just disappear one day. And if you ever did find them, they'd be sitting in some shack bar on a beach on some Caribbean island somewhere, happy as a pig in crap. I mean, these guys, they just had enough of the rat race, enough of the pressures, enough of the stress, enough of all that stuff, and they dropped out. Well, that's how I feel right now. I feel like I have gotten off that treadmill that was just beginning to go faster and faster and faster every day, and I was having a harder and harder time and getting more and more out of breath, trying not to fall off the thing. And I'm finally off of that now, and things are peaceful and things have calmed down, and I am enjoying life. Doesn't mean I can't still be aggravated, and I do get aggravated at things, and mostly the things I get aggravated are human beings and their inherent stupidity, which accounts for the comments that I make. Ribeye Susie says, question Mitch, what do you think about Disney now? I also watch Adam the Woo. It seems that Disney is going on the downside. Well, Disney got woke. Like so many. I don't know where all this woke stuff come from. I don't know why anybody ever took it seriously. Because of the tactics of them calling us names. How else could any small, tiny, minor percentage of people control so much of the dialogue, make so many people feel guilty without accusing them and getting support for those accusations publicly of being homophobic, sexist, anti-LGBTQ, WERTY. I'm sorry. I think anybody should be able to do anything they want. Okay? And you can even do it in front of me if you want to. But you can't change the way I feel about it and the way I think. That you don't have the right to do, and you don't have the right to jam it down my throat or force me to. That was driven home to me yesterday, this woke crap. Sorry. It's hard for me as a 77-year-old straight white male. The last great minority on this planet. The straight white male. The last group of people that have virtually no advantages in anybody's purchasing, diversity, inclusion plans. Not a woman, I'm not black, I'm not handicapped, I'm not any of those. I'm a straight white male. And according to this woke world, I should be ashamed of myself for that. Me and my white privilege. How absurd does that sound? So I get an email yesterday from one of the customers that we do work for. My daughter and I do work for a big utility company. I won't mention any names, certainly. But down at the bottom of this email, it was signed. Signature block. Had the name typed out. I still don't know if it was a man or a woman. It was one of those, it's Pat. Okay. Is this a man or a woman? Don't know. No picture, no nothing. And after this person's name was a parenthesis and the pronouns. They, them, their, close parenthesis. This person wants to be referred to when you're talking about them. They don't want to be referred to as him or her. They want to be referred to as they, or them, or their. Now, that's one I've been trying to figure out, because those are plural things. They mean more than one. When you say they are a rowdy bunch, you're not just talking about one person. You're talking about a group of people. You can't talk about them and expect people to understand you're talking about one person. But this person wants to be a them. How the hell's that work even? All of you out there, please, if an F-bomb bothers you, if it offends you and you're going to hate me and unsubscribe and run for the hills, just put your fingers in your ears right now while I tell you what my pronouns are. Okay? My pronouns are go fuck yourself. Those are my pronouns. I'm going to start putting that in parentheses every time I write my name down. Why not? Why can't I? Why can't I be whatever I want to be and call myself whatever I want to? If everybody else is allowed, why? Because I'm a straight white man and I can't do that? How dare I, me and my white privilege? That's how absurd the world is these days, my friends, and this is why I just can't shut up about this stuff. I have to keep pointing it out. Aren't people noticing this? Why is nobody even talking about how silly this is and how destructive it is? It's crazy. It's nuts. So I was talking to my daughter on the phone about this email, and I wanted to talk about this. I guess let's assume it was a man, about this man. And I'm saying now, my daughter knows, she's not woke. She knows this is crap. And I said, how do I refer to this person while I'm talking to my daughter? Do I say, well, they want to know, talking about one person, and to work for a place, to be employed by a place, which I guarantee you has got a majority of employees that are not woke, that are just real normal people. The men know they're men, the women know they're women. There's maybe a few percentage of them that haven't figured it out yet, but that's always been that way. But for the company that they work for to have to not be allowed to have a policy of what these people can put on official company business emails, that's just friggin' embarrassing. Shows you just how far this DEI crap has gone, and the rules and the laws that these people have been able to get enforced, so that the 1 or 2% of them are now in charge of how the rest of us have to think. Now, is this really a problem compared to the food? No, it isn't, which is why I don't talk about it. But you give me 2 hours on a microphone and we'll get around to this shit eventually. What do I think of Disney? I think they've made a lot of bad mistakes. Bad mistakes. They bought into this woke crap and it's killing them. I used to love Disney. I live in Orlando. I lived in Orlando. We used to go to Disney all the time. I liked the parks. It was fun. It was great. Their movies were for kids. We weren't afraid to let our kids. We went to Disney when it first opened up. I still remember all those years ago. But like most of Hollywood, they have gone so overboard on this crap that it borders on absurdity. And they've got people quaking in their boots that they don't dare. It's like the king's new clothes. They don't dare speak up and tell the truth lest they, be chastised or, worse yet, arrested for some kind of hate speech crime, which, if we continue down this road, is going to be coming to a police station near you. Tussa says, hope you'll take up the topic of how to spend all the time we free up by eliminating all the time spent planning, shopping for, preparing, eating, and cleaning after the... Well, that's an individual thing. That's it. That'd be a good talk, a good topic for a talk, but yes, you have to do something with your time. I'm proof positive that you just can't sit around and do nothing. I don't care how old you are. You do go nuts. You have to have a purpose, you have to be busy, and you have to feel like you're living a worthwhile life, at least I do, or you just wither away. I see it with so many retired people where I live. They just wither away. They just fade out slowly. Ain't pretty. Anyone who has, Jim says, anyone who has dealt with a human-robot customer service person can relate to the AI fears. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. If you think you get frustrated with these telephone systems where you can't even punch buttons now, you have to talk to them like they're actually a person. If you ever want, I ought to record one of those things one of these days. If I think it's going to be an aggravating one of those, where I can never, ever get accomplished what I need to get accomplished by talking to a machine, I may turn a camera on and let you listen to how I react to talking to a robotic voicemail thing. Because it's a riot. It is a riot. My patience is gone pretty quick. I'll have to do that. We're down at the bottom of the chat. We're talking politics. Yeah, we got that big debate on Tuesday night while I have my live stream. I think it is. My live stream's from 8 to 10 on Tuesday night. I guess that's when the debate's going to be. But I'm going to be on a live stream, folks. I'm going to be there. I'm not going to let any debate get in the way of what's really important in this world, and that is me having a live stream. Oh, we got about 140 people here. Good to see all you guys. Thanks so much for coming. I know I missed some questions. There's got to be more. QQQ's in here. Why am I not finding them? Okay, Mama Bear says, Mitch, what is your opinion on freeze-dried organ supplements? Didn't people historically eat organ meats? Some did, some didn't. Keep in mind, you kill a 2-ton animal, a very small percentage of that animal is actually organs. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the carnivorous animals go for that stuff first. If I'm not mistaken, I may be. But I think that the first thing a lion does is kind of rip out the guts of what it's killed. And I think that the first humanoid types, the first, 2, 3, 4 million years ago, the first of our Homo ancestors, the Homo erectus and those boys and girls, initially started out kind of following the lions around and scavenging the leftovers. And I think by the time they got it, and I may be way off base here, but this just makes sense to me. There was none of those organs left, so they pretty much settled for the muscle meat. So I think that's how we got our start. I know there's a lot of nutrients in some of these organs, but in some of these organs, especially the liver, there's a lot of nutrients, sometimes too much. And one of the things I hear Ken Berry say all the time is keep in mind that for every pound of meat you get off of an animal, just a fraction of an ounce compared to the amount of the whole animal that's liver would be just a tiny little bit. So yeah, there may be nutrients in liver and organs that are good for people. I never eat them. I never take supplements. I'm doing just fine. I don't believe Sean Baker or Anthony Chafee, either one of them, ever eats organ meat or takes organ supplements. I don't think there's a real definitive answer, Mama Bear, on that question one way or the other. We all seem to be doing good. The ones who take them and the ones who don't. When I was a kid, my mom made liver and onions. I used to like it. I didn't know what it was. I like the taste. I like the taste, believe it or not, of chicken livers, because that's what Jewish people ate, chopped chicken liver. We would wrap it up in a phyllo kind of pastry and deep fry it, and that was called a knish. And you walk down the streets of New York, and they have people selling these things. They have potato knishes, liver knishes. Those things were fabulous. It was liver. So I'm not averse to eating liver, but I never felt compelled to or felt the need to go out of my way to get some. Would it hurt me? Oh, I don't think so. Might even help me a little bit. Maybe someday I'll try it. But it's not something I really worry about, and I would certainly not spend money on a supplement of any kind. Not the way I eat. Don't need supplements. That's why we eat this way. So we don't have to figure out what our body needs. We let our body figure it out. And the only thing that I supplement are things that are pretty well known to be missing from the food itself because of modern farming and other things. The vitamin D, if you don't get enough sun. The iodine, because it's not much of it in the soil, evidently, so it doesn't get into our meat. And electrolytes, because we just need electrolytes, and we're drinking water without it, where our ancestors used to drink out of ponds and streams and other kind of dirty, muddy water filled with all kinds of minerals that had electrolytes in them. So as long as we get our water out of the kitchen sink or a plastic bottle, no, we're not getting the electrolytes we need. There might be some in here. This is sparkling natural mineral water. This has got minerals in it. So there might be some electrolytes in here. It has a slightly, but not hardly noticeable, salty taste to it. So I make sure. I got a question on a comment earlier that asked me, how do I know how much salt to eat? And my answer was very simply, salt to taste. Salt to taste. Listen to your body. If you eat something and think it needs salt, put salt on it. If you put too much salt on it, you'll know it. Don't salt it as much next time. Salt to taste. Your body gives you a clue and tells you exactly what to do. How do you think animals live? How do you think animals seem to maintain perfect health unless we try to feed them? How do you think they live to get where they are today without veterinarians, pet food stores? They made it. They got here. They don't have a conscious mind where they can think about, what supplements do I need? They just reacted to the cues their body gave them. They knew when they were hungry. They didn't consciously maybe know it, but the urge to eat was there. It's all about urges. We get these urges. That's our brain's way of saying you need to do something. And then we do it. So we humans have lost the art of listening to our natural cues and signals. That's what's beautiful about this diet. You don't have to decide what time you're going to eat. When you get hungry, you eat. Now, it will settle into a pattern where it seems to work by the clock, because a daily cycle is like that. You know, circadian rhythms, light comes up, you wake up, certain things physiologically happen in your body. They call a lot of that the dawn effect. Blood sugar gets jacked a little bit. You get the energy, you get out of bed, start moving, get out in the sun a little bit, get that morning sun where it's not so hot, but you still benefit from the ultraviolet. Get to a certain time of the day where all of a sudden you say, I could eat. Yeah, I'm getting a little hungry. But you could also not eat when you're a carnivore. You wouldn't suffer for not eating, but it's part of your routine, which is why I eat every day between like 11 and 11:30 is my first meal. I just think, well, I could eat now. So I eat, and then I eat my second meal. The only day of the week where I eat later is Saturday, and I'll eat right after this live stream. So I do my intermittent fasting, but not because I've scheduled intermittent fasting. It's just because it's just what I feel like doing. It's what naturally feels like I should be doing. So just follow your body's cues, and your body will tell you how much salt you need. Drink when people say, oh, how much water should I drink? The answer to that is enough to quench your thirst. It's the answer. Well, how much is that? I don't know. Until you're not thirsty. How much should I eat? Till you're not hungry anymore. Till you've satiated. Those signals are there for a reason. They tell the dumb animals who can't think about it exactly what to do. We think we're too smart for that and have forgotten how to listen to those signals, and that's a shame. That's a shame. And we pay the price. Unfortunately, we pay the price for that, and we certainly are today. Let me see if I can grab if there's any last-minute questions here. Golf addict. What was your job in the past? What's your thoughts on supplementing with iodine? Mark Whistler says, oh, I do it. How much iodine, I'm not sure of, because you hear so many things. I don't even know if I need any. I don't have any thyroid symptoms. But I listen to a lot of these doctors talk and try to decide, because you always have to consider the source, whether they're, number one, trying to sell something. Are they telling me to buy something, or buy a particular supplement that I need to order from this particular website? I discount most of those things. But iodine is a basic element. It's not something that was invented by a drug company or a supplement company. It's just a basic mineral, like potassium, sodium, and the other electrolytes, calcium. They were never invented. They just were. They're elements. And you listen to people who tell you how iodine was in the soil, and as the soils got monocropped and raped and the nutrients depleted, that the iodine wasn't in the soil. It wasn't getting soaked up or drawn into the plants. So now you had grasses with no iodine in them, and the cows came along and ate the grasses with no iodine, so the cows didn't get the iodine. So the cow's meat didn't have the iodine in it, and then we ate the cow, and the meat didn't have the iodine that it used to when that cow was grazing 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 years ago, or especially before the agricultural revolution. But yet, we still have those exact same physiological and biochemical processes in our body that need iodine here and there in order to accomplish a particular reaction, which does something important, which is why we have to supplement. So the most important thing I say to myself is, how much do I need to take to hurt myself? I can't drink 3 ounces of iodine. It would kill me instantly. So I know I can't do that. I know I can take 1 drop out of a dropper, stick it in a cup of coffee, and it could never hurt me. It's just not enough iodine to hurt me. And I know that my kidneys will get rid of any excess anyway, as long as they're working. So I'm pretty safe taking a drop. Then the next question, if you're thinking logically, is a drop going to do the job? Do I need more than a drop? And you go back and forth between a half a gallon of iodine and a drop of iodine and work your way right back to a point where you say, okay, I think according to this and according to that and listening to this guy and that guy, and I've gotten to the point right now where the range that I've heard and consider is between 1 and 8 drops a day of Lugol's 2% J. Crow's iodine solution. Between 1 and 8. I know people that are taking 8 drops a day. Some of my followers have told me they're doing 8 drops a day. Why? Because it's supposed to be good not just for your thyroid, but for a man, it's supposed to be helpful for prostate issues and BPH and things like that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take 2 drops a day in my morning coffee. And we're going to live like that. I've been taking a drop a day now for almost a year. I can't tell you whether it's doing anything or not because I never noticed any kind of a problem that I could blame iodine deficiency on. But I do 2 drops a day right now. And that's the logic how I figured this out. And people say, well, that won't help. And to that I would retort, couldn't hurt. It's no big deal, as long as it doesn't cause a problem. So, as the answer to that question, Mark, I hope that meant something to you. And next one. I think I found most of the questions. So, and we're getting on 5 o'clock, so I think that's going to probably do it. Let me go down to the bottom of the chat again. You guys are still chatting away. There's still 100 plus of you there. Mark Davis says, question. Hi. Hi, Mark. How the hell are you, man? Good to see you. Watch out for a video tomorrow, Mark. Tomorrow I have a video coming out about a real smoker adventure. I spent yesterday smoking ribs and salmon, and I did it in what I affectionately call the Mark Davis smoker. Yes, you heard it right. Mark Davis has been a friend of this channel, and he super chatted me one day enough when he heard I bought this smoker, he paid for it. I thought that was incredibly generous of him. He's a nice guy. And I promised him, I said, Mark, I would have a plaque made and officially name my smoker after you. And you'll see it in the video tomorrow, and you'll see the plaque. I showed it in my video today for a second. It says, thank you, the Mark Davis smoker. So, Sherry Morgan says, please look up a bit and find my question. Sherry says, I had a question. Mark Davis says, hi. I'm looking, Sherry. Here it is. Okay. Question. Have you by chance watched Stephanie Keto person? She really doesn't think carnivore is good for long-term and harmful. Thoughts, please. No, I have never watched her. Check back with me in 10 years and I'll tell you whether I agree with her or not. There are people out there who have made videos that have been carnivore for 40 years. I personally cannot see how eating like I eat right now, getting trace carbs in eggs and meat, and probably some things that get snuck in without my knowing it, especially when I go out to lunch with my son to the barbecue place. I can't see why that wouldn't be enough to sustain me, why I would have to add some sugar or plant foods, which I know have nothing in them that I need. And most of what's in them only screws up and gums up my machinery rather than is what it needs to work. There's not a vitamin, not a mineral, not an amino acid, not a substance that does anything that I don't already get or have anything that I'm not already getting from the food I'm eating. I don't know this person. I could say on one hand, well, she likes keto because it lets her feed her addiction and she's just not ready to give it up, and she's going to make up any excuse and fight to the death before she'll let you take away her keto ice cream, her keto donuts. Now, I don't know her. Maybe that's not her. But so many people on keto are on keto and poo-poo carnivore because they're not giving up their carb addiction. They're going to have a little bit of sugar. And what you're telling me she said, and again, I'm giving you an answer completely uninformed without having seen her or her message. I'm going to compare it to alcoholism. And I'm going to ask you, somebody who's kicked alcohol, a substance that they don't need, do they have to become an alcoholic again because it's bad for you to stay a non-alcoholic? Do they have to start drinking again after 2 years, 5 years, or it's going to be harmful to them? Why, when you stop eating sugar and all this other crap, everything gets better? What is it that you want to think? Now, I've heard all the arguments. I've heard the arguments about carb cycling but we're already doing that. I'm going in and out of ketosis every day, God knows how many times. It's not up to us to worry about stuff like that. As long as you're feeling good. Now, something starts to happen, you get some symptoms, you got a problem, yeah, investigate it, find out why. But for somebody to say, okay, I've been carnivore for 2 years now, so I got to stop and become keto again and start making keto pizza crust and keto mashed potatoes and all the crap that I'll eventually get into once my body starts getting used to carbs again, I'm not going to do it. And yet I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying that we don't even know who to believe these days. So that's the best I can do in answering the question that somebody is claiming that carnivore long term is harmful. I just don't know. Sorry, Sherry. I hope that's meaningful to you. And again, if people want an excuse to eat carbs, this would make a great excuse for them. Well, I heard somewhere that you can't do carnivore. You have to have some carbs. You know, it's not good for you to be. Well, okay, there you go. You found your excuse. You have your brain has found that reason to accept so that you can stay addicted. Good on you. Congratulations. That's really what drives most of this reasoning and logic, is the desire, because people hear what they want to hear and believe what they want to believe first. The truth sometimes is harsh and not what they want to hear. So out comes all the advice like this. Well, you can't be long-term carnivore. It's harmful for you. Well, show me all of the studies that have been done over 30, 40, 50 years, tightly controlled, with two groups of people. One group, carnivore, strict carnivore for 30 years. And we'll look at the results of that. Oh, wait. There are no studies like that. There's only people guessing and theorizing. So how can you go on that? So when you don't have anything to go on, what do humans usually go on? What do they usually believe? Who do they usually listen to? They believe what they want to believe, and they listen to the people that are telling them what they want to believe, and they're happy, and life is good. So I think that's about the best I can do on that answer. And listen, you're welcome, Sherry. Anytime. CB Carmack is here. How you doing? Mitch, 65-year carnivore. This Aunt B, homestead house. She's a rancher. Part of that is built from food and heavy lifting. Yeah, I've seen her. She's not 65. I think the one you're talking about is in her 80s now, and maybe if we're talking about the same person, but I believe most of those keto channels bash carnivore only because keto reaches way more people for the clicks. Oh, yeah, there is no doubt. That's why it takes a lot of guts for me to kind of bash keto because of some of the problems, because I'm cutting 90% of my potential audience, potential followers. It's why Ken Berry and Nisha don't get off this keto and ketovore stuff. Because the way their message is set up, they have to be a resource for everybody. Carb addicts that won't give it up and carb addicts that want to give it up. That's the difference between keto and carnivore. Keto is a bunch of carb addicts that want to hang on to their addiction and keep feeding it. And carnivore are people that are ready to give up the carb addiction and abstain. Other than that, we're talking about 20 grams of broccoli and Brussels sprouts, which is not much of a difference in reality. Pretty much the same diet. But when you're eating those carbs, those Brussels sprouts and broccoli, if you're an addict, then it starts to creep into other things that then become sweet things, then become almond flour pastries with artificial sweetener in them. And then it becomes, next thing you know, you're on your way to Papa John's to get a super huge pizza. At least that's the story of my life. Okay, come back to mine. Okay, everybody. Listen, my friends, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon. More than likely, I will blast a little something out tomorrow morning by 10 at the latest. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm releasing what I think is going to be a really fun video to watch, my smoker adventures on the Mark Davis smoker, making what turned out to be absolutely the best ribs I have ever made, and the simplest to make as well, and fabulous smoked salmon fillet. I'm telling you, unbelievable. And you'll see it was so easy to do. Smoked them with apple wood chips. I think you'll enjoy that video. And then at the end of the video, I'll show you how I took all the extra meals that I ended up with that I wasn't going to eat in the very near future, and prepped them and packaged them up so they'd last in the freezer for when I was ready to eat them, the fish and the ribs. So with that, we will get a little traveling music. Oh, yeah. And me and my loud shirt. CB says, Ken Berry is pressured by his 35-year-old wife, LOL. To which I will answer, and I love them both, you think? You think? And he's loving every minute of being pressured like that, I guarantee you. So nobody needs to feel sorry for Ken Berry. Oh, man. Thanks for coming, everybody. I had a good time. I hope I didn't talk too much. But what else we got to do? I'm here for 2 hours, and you're not here, so somebody's got to talk. And it's usually me. Texas Time is here. Hey, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Great live stream today. He says, thank you. Hope you all enjoyed it. We had some pretty good attendance. Everybody's now saying goodbye. So I myself we'll say goodbye to all of you. And I'll see you on my next live stream on Tuesday night, where I will be competing, more than likely, with the presidential debate. I think maybe you'll probably learn more here, but who knows. All right, guys, take the rest of the day off and eat meat.